It's been a hot minute since I last looked at anything to do with Metrolink, the suburban rail network out of Los Angeles, California. I've had the EMD F59PH diesel locomotive in my TSW collection for a fair while now, but didn't think to review it until recently. In all honesty, I don't drive on either Metrolink route all that much, and most of my rare visits to either route have been solely to record footage for use in videos about an underrated singer, dancer and choreographer by the name of Toni Basil, as she apparently lives in Los Angeles these days, and has done for a long time. For at least a decade at this point, I've been interested in American commuter trains. More so than the freight trains anyway, although my preference lies mainly with networks in the Northeast, with at least 3 exceptions in the form of Florida's Sunrail, Tennessee's Music City Star, and California's Altamont Corridor Express. Quite frankly, I'd love to see Sunrail in TSW someday, since I've always been intrigued by the MP32PH-Q locomotives and their trains that often consist of only 2 coaches. For trains that short, I question why Sunrail has such powerful locomotives. The Metrolink F59PH add-on was released in February 2025, during the TSW5 era, having been first announced in the December 2024 Season of Reveals thingy. She's compatible with TSW6, and subsequent sequels too, I expect, and costs 25 New Zealand dollars at full price if you were to buy her on Steam. There isn't much included in the add-on, just the F59PH locomotive herself, more specifically the rebuilt F59PHR variant, only 1 livery for said locomotive, and 3 scenarios for the Antelope Valley Line. Personally, I reckon Dovetail missed a trick by not including the F59PHI, of which 12 examples were used by Metrolink between 1994 and 2020. Apparently, they still have a quintet of F59PHRs on their books, and one of the withdrawn engines, number 851, has been preserved by the Fullerton Train Museum. I even saw Heiss mention 851 in a new episode of Twerp News. Metrolink was neither the first nor only company to use F59PH locomotives. If we ever get another variant of this thing in TSW, I would ideally want to see the Trinity Railway Express of Texas. That's a service that runs for 34 miles from Dallas Union Station to Fort Worth, Texas and Pacific Station. An alternative suggestion is the Go Transit F59, either as part of a dedicated route add-on, such as the Lakeshore West Line, or at the very least, an add-on for the existing, but neglected, CN Oakville subdivision route, which has always felt weirdly quiet without any passenger trains present. There are numerous other issues with the Oakville route, not just the lack of passenger trains. And yes, I know about the possibility of licensing issues, but that doesn't mean I can't make suggestions and hold out hope for at least one of them to come to fruition. I'm curious to see what we'll get as a core US route in TSW7, but thinking back to the one F59PH variant that we do have in TSW, I reckon the modelling is well done, like a good steak. But in all honesty, I don't know enough about these locomotives to point out any inaccuracies, so I will leave it up to Metrolink foamers to let us know in the comments if the developers made any mistakes. The F59 can be driven in timetable mode on both Metrolink routes, with 41 playable services on the Antelope Valley Line. In the case of the San Bernardino Line, she has 64 playable services in the weekday timetable and 27 services in the weekend timetable. It's worth noting that she doesn't add any new services to either timetable, and instead only substitutes into the existing services that would otherwise be run by an F125 or MP36PH-3C. I should add that most passenger services on the Metrolink routes are split into two parts. I think that's to allow for shorter gameplay sessions. If the services weren't split, they would be hour and 40 minutes or 2-hour runs in one shot, and I can imagine that getting tiring for people who don't have that much patience, especially in the case of the Antelope Valley Line. Even if none of the services were split into two parts, that would still be a bit of an issue because, as far as I know, this game only has one save slot, so go figure that one out. In any case, Metrolink trains are typically arranged with the locomotive facing away from Los Angeles and the cab car facing towards the city. If you just spawn on foot, or load a service with the cab car leading, then the game will randomly load either an MP36PH-3C, F59PHR, or in this case, an F125 for the services. As for what the F59PH is like to drive, I'm of the opinion that she's neither too easy nor too difficult, although she could be a bit, for want of a better word, jarring to those who are used to driving one-hand or multiple units with quick acceleration and braking. I noticed that the engine decides to make like Jerry Harrison and rev it up when you're stationary and shift the reverser out of neutral. And before I forget, here's a demonstration of the bell and horn. As for any downsides to this add-on, one that comes to mind is the absence of a fully modelled engine room. I don't remember if there are any diesels in TSW that do have this feature. I can't comment on whether or not the F59's physics are accurate, but one thing I will say is that the locomotive seems a little bit slow off the mark, even when pulling or pushing a set of only 5 coaches. Insert a negative comment on the cab car's appearance here. If you're departing from a station that's on an uphill grade, I would recommend setting the throttle to notch 4 just before releasing the brakes, so as to minimise the chances of your train rolling back. Personally, I've gotten so well accustomed to driving trains with the new suspension physics that I was thrown off by the lack of said physics on the F59. I know this isn't an issue with the F59, but I still wanted to point out that, even after all this time, Dovetail still hasn't fixed the issue where cars glitch through the road surface and rails at numerous crossings. Meanwhile, this route's performance could certainly be better. These days, and on my end at least, it only averages between 35 and 60 frames per second, and sometimes dips below 30 depending on the scenery density, or the amount of trains present in a given location. Not helping the situation was the stuttering, which, on one run at least, got really bad on the highway section between El Monte and Cal State LA. By comparison, the performance was smoother throughout the rest of the route. If you're interested in driving the Metrolink trains in TSW, I would recommend getting the San Bernardino Line over the Antelope Valley Line, as SB has a more varied, slightly busier rail scene, and, in my opinion, doesn't feel anywhere near as boring as the AVL. The full-length journey time is around 1 hour and 40 minutes, which makes it a little bit shorter than the AVL. As for the F59PH herself, she is a welcome addition to TSW's Metrolink scene, complete with good modelling and decent sounds, but she doesn't have that much usage potential in the game, so I wouldn't recommend buying this add-on at full price. As for a rating, I think the F59 deserves a 6.5 out of 10, and if you've stuck around to the end of the video, you win tickets to visit a city in Switzerland where the people sing songs like Mickey, Go for the Burn, and Over My Head. It's Tony Basil.